G'day Internet, and welcome back to a not particularly normal video. I'm sure you've read on the news by now that a fair chunk of Australia is on fire. And when I say a fair chunk, we're talking millions and millions of hectares. The last count that I read was 6 million hectares. To put that just into perspective for a minute, imagine taking England, right? And the entire bottom half of England and Wales gone. Black, burnt to a crisp. That's how big these fires are. We've lost hundreds and hundreds of homes. Farms completely wiped out. The wildlife death is estimated somewhere around the 500 million mark, okay? That's how big these things are. And I thought to myself, what can I do? I'm just one person. But then, partly thanks to Tony Roberts' video from Analog Toys, and it kind of got me thinking, well, what do I have? I've got a small YouTube channel and a fairly decent collection of vintage computers. So how about I auction off one of my computers? And then I thought, well, which one? Because I need to make it so it's small enough so it's easy to post. It needs to be worth something. I don't want to just auction off a Commodore 64 because every Tom, Dick and Harry has a Commodore 64. So I thought, what's one machine that I have in my collection that is absolutely iconically Australian? And that would be my pride and joy, my Microbee. Now, to give you the 50-cent tour of what a Microbee is, it's a Z80 based Australian born and bred microcomputer from the 80s. It was primarily used in schools, but it did get used elsewhere. As an interesting side note, BMW Australia used it for its parts system, so that's something. But this isn't no ordinary Microbee. This has actually had a few upgrades done to it to make life a little easier. So let's take a quick look at the machine, the one that I will be putting up on eBay, so you know what you're bidding on. And then we'll come back and I'll explain how I'm going to run the auction and all that kind of stuff. So this is the Microbee. Specifically, it's a Microbee Premium 128, meaning it's got 128K of RAM. It is it's a fairly simple machine. It runs a Z80 processor. Most of the graphics and stuff is software driven, but I'll let you do research on what it actually is. In the auction will be the machine specifically, but also the power supply, and this is a brand new power supply from Microbee. I got this directly from Ewan, which also includes, the cabling also includes the composite video and also the ability to hook it up to a cassette. So that's that, but this is the actual machine. Now, like I said, this isn't standard anymore by a long shot. Let me pull the covers off it and I can explain to you what I mean. So that's the screws out. The top case is actually two parts, so let's remove the keyboard bezel and this. Now, the physical architecture of a Microbee is essentially two boards. You've got the main board at the bottom and you've got what's called the core board. Now, this core board is completely brand new. Oh, we've lost an LED. Is completely brand new. This was actually one of the very last ones that Ewan from Microbee produced. I don't believe they're available anymore. The short version is this, is that all the original stock bits of the core board have been wedged up one end, and the other end is now completely run by an FPGA, and it gives you a emulated disk drive and it also gives you Ethernet. And the reason for that is this actually has the ability to run Linux, which I'll show you in a minute. Other than that, it's very much a machine of its age. There's a lot of 74 series logic chips underneath here. I will give you fair warning that the keyboards on these are notorious for being flaky. Right now, it's working fine, but I make no promises. This is an old machine after all. So that is essentially the guts of it. As you can see, it's in pretty reasonable condition. So let me put the covers back on, plug it into a monitor, and I will give you a quick demo of the machine working. So here is the Microbee all booted up. I've booted one of the games disk images because, of course, that's what you're going to do. It does have the built-in ability to switch disk images off the SD card, and it's just reset Shift P, release the reset, and you get this, and you can change boot modes and disk drives and so forth. But we'll just go back to where we were. This is it booting up. And it's very much a computer of its day. So, like, it's got Balderdash. One's called Scavenger on this, but you kind of get the idea. And so, you know, this is Balderdash. And the graphics are actually kind of good, if you ask me. I like them. They're relatively high resolution. I think they look good personally. And so, yeah, this is Balderdash. But to give you a little bit of background, okay, so the Microbee started off life, and this is a really short version, the Microbee started off life as a kit computer run from one of the magazines. I think it was Your Computer or something like that. Anyway, so the New South Wales Department of Education put out a call for a computer for New South Wales School. And if you think this sounds very much like the BBC Micro, you're right. Anyway, after so on and so forth, Microbee won the bid and produced the Microbee in full computer form. And like I said, it went on to do other things, like BMW used it for its parts system. It was also very good at remote communications, primarily because like Australia is an incredibly wide and not highly populated country. So distance education has always been a big thing in Australia. And when it comes to computers doing that, Microbee really was at the very leading edge of that. So that's kind of cool. But yes, this does, there's a whole bunch of disk images already on the SD card, so you'll be right with that. And like I said, it will run Linux, so just give me a sec. Now I need to change the boot mode to, give me a minute. We need mode 3, enter, yes. Press 1, 2 or 3, escape to go back to the main menu. We then need to, and then we don't need to actually change anything. So in theory I should be able to go save and reboot, loading kernel image, and there we go. It's booting Linux. Not bad for a computer from 1980 whatever. And there you go. UC Linux? UC Linux for the Microbee Premium Plus. And it is ls, whoops, ls, there you go, bin, dev, etc, home, all your usual Linux stuff. It's Linux. And if you want to go back, Shift Control, reset Shift P, You go back to this and we'll put the boot mode back into 1. Escape, save, and it should boot back into the disk image. There you go, done. It works. The SD card's actually got 2 partitions on it. The whole second partition is Linux, so that's kind of cool. So there you go. There's a 1980s computer that will run Linux. And there's a whole bunch of programs already on the SD card. You can get more from the Microbee Software Preservation Society repository. You've got to sign up and stuff, but it's there. So yeah, that is my Microbee. And you can probably understand why it's my pride and joy in my collection. Interestingly enough, the Microbee was actually the first school computer I ever used. When I moved when I was 10 years old, so this is 1987 or 88, the school I moved to, which was now a primary school, they had an entire room, a lab of Microbees, and this was the first school computer I ever used. So that's the machine, that's the Microbee, and that's what you're going to get. You're going to get the machine and you're going to get the power supply. Now remember that this is an Australian machine, so it's 240 volt and it's PAL. So if you're in England or New Zealand or whatever, you're fine, obviously. But if you're in the States or Canada, obviously you're going to need to deal with step-down transformers and all that kind of stuff. So please be aware of that. Now, as for whoever does win the auction, if you're in Australia, I will personally cover the postage. So whatever you bid and whatever you end up paying in the auction, that will go directly to the charities. If you're overseas, what I will do is you can get in contact me or whatever, and we'll split the postage. I think that's kind of a fair deal. So I'll pay half, and if you can pay half, then because international postage from Australia is actually kind of expensive. Now, where will the money go? Well, I've got no idea what the auction's going to finish at. But whatever it does, I'm going to split the proceeds. Half of it I'm going to send to the New South Wales Rural Fire Service, which is the volunteer bushfire brigade in New South Wales. And the other half I'm actually going to send directly to my old brigade, because I was actually a volunteer firefighter for a few years in my early 20s. And that's Camberwarra Bushfire Brigade. In the Shoalhaven area, and if you've read the news, the Shoalhaven has been hit nearly the hardest of all of Australia. So half of it will go to the New South Wales RFS and half of it will go to Canby, and that's all good. And it will be exactly, I'm sure PayPal and stuff will take fees or whatever, but whatever's left over after PayPal takes their slice, exactly half of it will go to New South Wales RFS and half of it will go to Canby Fire Brigade. Now, I've read countless number of stories of charity auctions on eBay like this going completely haywire, primarily based around people bidding and then simply not paying. Now, I'm putting my trust in the retro computer community on this, primarily because these people need this money now, right? So this is going to be a 7-day auction, and as soon as it ends, and as soon as I got payment, and as soon as the buyer is happy for me to release the funds, either because they've received it or they're just happy for me to do it, the money's going to go straight to those 2 areas, right? I don't want to have to run a 7-day auction, get screwed around, and then have to run another one. So please, I'm begging you, if you're bidding on this, you're bidding on it to buy, and you're bidding on it to support the New South Wales RFS and also Camberwarra Fire Brigade as well. So that's the story. That's the machine. That's the auction that I'm going to run. That's where the proceeds are going to go. So please bid on the auction, pick yourself up an incredibly unique computer, bid charitably if you could, and I'll follow this up with an announcement of how much money we managed to raise, and if the person wants to, the person who won the auction, so on and so forth. So please, if there's ever been a video that I've made that I would love for people to share on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, Reddit, wherever you happen to be on the interwebs, please let it be this one. My channel isn't monetized, so I'm not making any money from this video or anything like that. So please share a lot, get people bidding, and hopefully we can raise a good chunk of change for the New South Wales Rural Fire Service and Canberra Fire Brigade. Okay, see you soon.